Today I want to show you a new way of prioritizing vulnerability management with AI. And this is all done using Vulners, the sponsor of this video, who now has a new Vulners AI score built into their system, which helps cybersecurity teams stay on top of vulnerability management. And before we get into the AI part, let's just back up a bit and talk about why it needs to exist in the first place. That brings us to CVSS and EPSS. CVSS means Common Vulnerability Scoring System, and it's a way to assess how bad a vulnerability really is. You see, when someone finds a bug in some software, they have to manually calculate a CVSS score. People can also disagree on scores, so that 10 out of 10 could end up being a 6 out of 10 after a few days when other analysts have looked at it. Equally, in the famous case of Log4j, that 3.7 out of 10, which isn't really a big problem, could end up being a 9 out of 10, which is a huge problem. So that CVSS, remember, it's manual and it talks about how bad a vulnerability is. EPSS is the exploit prediction scoring system. And it's pretty cool because what it's trying to do is it's trying to predict using machine learning how likely it is that an exploit will be developed for a bug in the next 30 days. And that's incredibly useful if you're in a security team. If you've got 500 bugs to patch, you can prioritize them by the highest EPSS score and take the top 10 and make sure those ones get done on Friday before anybody goes home. So that's CVSS and EPSS. Let's talk about Vulners AI. Okay, so Vulners AI is looking at all of it. CVSS, EPSS, over 200 different sources. And it's dynamic, it's always being updated. And at the core, the model is designed to predict the CVSS base score using machine learning. And as with all machine learning, there's a whole bunch of science and wizardry going on under the hood here. There's things like cat boost, there's an entire article on it, I'll put a link to that below where you can go and read all the science behind how this AI scoring works. But in essence, the model is understanding the relationships between all these different data sources. You can see them here. You've even got things in here like Krebs, who's an information security journalist. You've got Bruce Schneier's blog, as well as CISA, HackerOne, Open Bug Bounty. Oh, the list just goes on and on. It's a huge list. So let's look at a really good example as to why having Vulners AI is super useful in a world where you have CVSS and EPSS already. So here we have NVD, the National Vulnerability Database, and this is just a filter of their latest bulletins. And if we look, the very first one has an AI score of 7.2 and nothing else. No other data has been applied to this. There is no EPSS and no one's calculated a CVSS score yet. That's invaluable. You can at least now know what Vulners thinks of this vulnerability. If you look underneath, this one has an 8.8 CVSS score and an AI score beside it. So if you were in an organization in the security team and you had to prioritize patching for this vulnerability, you could, even though there's no EPSS or CVSS score because there's a Vulners score. That's pretty cool. And what I also love about Vulners is that it does this really crazy thing where it scores everything that's in the database, and it has millions of entries in the database. But even things like blog entries, let's look at Brian Krebs' blog in Vulners. So here we go, I've put a little filter on here for Krebs, and these are some of his latest articles. As you can see, they don't have CVSS scores because they're not software vulnerabilities. They don't have EPSS scores either, but Vulners AI understands what's being talked about on the page and what it relates to, and it assigns an AI score to that article. It doesn't work every time perfectly because sometimes Brian might just be giving you his holiday updates, but sometimes it's really, really useful. And you can see, good examples of that here. Here's Patch Tuesday, 8.8 CVSS score, EPSS of nothing practically, and an AI score of 7.7. And we can click into this and you can consume Krebs' blog right here inside of Vulners. And this is all completely new. Feedback is one of the most important parts of developing machine learning and AI models. So the thing that I can recommend you do is go and have a play with this. It's totally free. There's a link in the description, or you can just go to vulners.com and it's all just there ready to be played with. Let me know what you think in the comments. Happy patching.